my favorite sector. Well, one of my favorite. I like banking and oil is probably my favorite, honestly. All right, let's look at Mr. Bank of America. Let's go. Actually, matter of fact, let's clean up. Let's do some cleaning. All right. No, let's go ahead and get rid of one more. Now we're just looking at our extension from the February 2nd low to the initial little high right there, which is March 18th. Because we've basically been playing this year round. It's the most common for everyone else. As you see, it's been on almost to the T throughout the whole year. To bring us all the way up to even to Friday or Thursday, excuse me. Friday was day before Christmas, so excuse me. If you look, of course, we made it to our 100%, and then we retracted, but we're kind of in a tight range. I like this what had happened right here because all this pressure that was built up, it dropped and probably scared a lot of people, which was Monday. Yeah, which was Monday. And you remember last week we were down significantly, like 40, 60 points come Monday morning. And of course, we retraced and ended the week much higher. But that's sometimes you got to flush everybody out. And that's kind of what it looks like they did. They flushed everybody out, brought it to some new lows. But again, if you remember what I was saying last week, we didn't really go that low. We're still above the October 13. And so we basically kind of double bottom. And look where we are. We found our resistance once again at the same level. However, this time coming back up feels a little different because we flushed everybody out. Now, as long as we don't retest, I would say even Tuesday, this day, I can Thursday, Wednesday, I don't know. Last week screwed me up. We're a short time. The low of 44.88. Anything above 44 or 43.88, I would be a buyer. Looking for us to try to take out right about here, the 45.75. NTRS, let's do the same thing with them. Let's get these drawings out of the way. Yeah, that's about it. And the reason I say that is our original extension, right, brought us up, and we are hovering right around this 1618. So we're hovering right around here, right, in October. Then we came back down and we're hovering right around the 127 and the 100% mark of our second extension, right? So you see we came back down. This would be our first extension was this 100 right here. We haven't quite got back down that low. We're hovering around our second extension of 100 in between the 127 and that. Our main target for this upcoming week, I like how we double topped up there. Again, this was Monday. We flushed everybody out and ripped higher. Our goal for this week is to take 118.75. If we can take and hold 118.75, I would be a buyer to close this gap of 124. Now, everyone needs to be very careful. Very careful. This market, this last few days of the week. Let's look at the calendar real quick. Just so I know exactly what days we're talking about. Is Yes, Friday is the 31st. So typically saying the market is 79% of the time is bullish for these next 5 days, right? So with that being said, how bullish? Not 100% sure how bullish, but it could get like real bullish, or we could pop and flop. Now, a week from today, again, I hope that we are closing this gap, but be very careful because if some bad news, some more virus stuff comes out, then we might roll over back down to the 111. I see, if I were to rate, like, if I would give a probability of that scenario happening, I'd probably give it about a 30% chance that that could happen. However, the market's pretty volatile and anything could happen, right? So just keep in mind, I am bullish above 118.75. Hey, let's talk to Chuck. I don't have any problem with Chuck. Me and Chuck been all right, man. Chuck and I are doing pretty good. We are almost at our secondary target of the original extension from the beginning of the year. That would be 89.39. Now, when we're looking at all these other bank stocks, they're like, we're looking, Bank of America and KKR are our lowest ones. Everything else is in the hundreds. Do I see Chuck going to the hundreds? I do. Do I see it happening tomorrow? No. When I know when it's going to happen, I wish I did. If I had a crystal ball, I'd be a bazillionaire right now, but I'm not a bazillionaire, so that must mean I don't have a crystal ball. Now, we just fired long on our squeeze. We're 2 days into it, so typically this squeeze will be 8 to 10 days. We have this basically this upcoming week should end our squeeze. 87.09 would more or less be my target, but come back down to the 84.49, hold a little bit, and then go up to the 87 to the 89. However, it really has to depend on the market. Last week, yes, Chuck did amazing, right? Fascinating week last week. However, not all the banks were massively. I mean, if you were to look just on Friday, you'd be like, well, Eric, that's not true. Compared to the overall market, the banking sector did not explode how I would have liked it to explode last week. And this is what I mean. Like when we get further down, because a lot of the stocks are very far from the all-time highs. When the SPX or the ES is within a stone throw away of all-time highs, the banking sector is lagging with the oil sector, but I've also said those two are kind of congruent with each other. So with interest rates going higher next year, positive for the banks. Oil should be also positive for the banks. And as I hate what everyone will say, but inflation, probably the banks are not stupid. They know what they're doing. That's why they're shifting a lot of their stuff into single family homes and they're going to buy everybody out. Why would they do that? Why would the banks overtake all the loans? Because during the inflationary times, right, then money, like your loan becomes cheaper. So if you could not have as many loans, and then because like okay, so you loaned your house at $50 or at $100. Now that $100 is worth 50 cents because of a 100% inflation, right? Well, that destroys the bank. Well, it doesn't destroy the bank if the bank is the realtor or the home owner and owns all the homes, right? Because then the inflationary price doesn't too much matter because then when they're ready to sell it again, they've reaped their profits more than they would have off of a loan. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of far fetched, but if you grasp my concept, that's why I would be. I mean, that's the only reason I really see why else would the banks be buying up all single family homes, right? Now, let's get into KKR. KKR, little disappointing, but yeah, no, from 68 to 75 in 4 days isn't the worst, right? Right. We're above our lines where we wanted them to be, right? Uh, we maintain the 75 to 1. I would say next target is our 82 up to our 83, right? You might be like, wow, that's a lot. Yes, it is. But if the banks really start getting going this last few days of the year, then I see no problem with us at least being at 78. CME Group, once again, push it to the limit. And look at this. We're in a massive squeeze. It's starting to build momentum up. Now, if this really does kind of push and we break above this, right? This is the high right here, but our extension high 100% would be 234. We're close. Excuse me. We retracted, got everybody out, right? We dropped it below all this. Basically, all of November, we retracted. We took it all away, and in 4 days, we're right back where we started. Now, I do see that again, if the market likes to continue its upward trajectory. Ooh, oh man, I forgot about that. Suck it now. That would have been free money too, right? Because they double dividend, right? They dividend on the 9th and then also dividend on the 27th. So I guess that's a year-end dividend. So keep that in mind for next year. If they're giving out year-end dividends, then you might, and this is a nice hefty dividend, and keep that in mind. I forgot, and that's my own fault. I even knew all about it. Very frustrating, very frustrating. But life goes on. Give ourselves that day, 12/27, which is today. So since it's paying out $3.25, it would not be surprising if we had a little bit of a dip before. So technically speaking, it's supposed to drop $3.25. But that was more back in the ancient times of the stock market when everybody knew that rule. Now maybe 5%. Well, I know that majority of new traders have no idea about that. So if you don't know it's supposed to do that, then it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy if nobody knows about the self-fulfilling prophecy. It's only self-fulfilling if everybody knows it and everyone follows it. So with that being said, watch for our risk coming today, just on the dividend risk. But other than that, I see no problem for 244. Now this is more or less what I was talking about. BlackRock, we're at all-time highs in the stock market, at least relatively close to all-time highs. And BlackRock is a laggard, right? We are nowhere near looking pretty over here. This is actually looking really ugly, right? Keep that in mind that, we did have a massive run this last year from basically 670 to 970. Now we're at 913, but it's still a pretty decent couple hundred point gain for the year. We're getting in a squeeze. I'm starting to like the fact that our momentum is getting stronger. We are playing, I guess this is the hands of short-term traders, since it's literally went up to 22 and then fail on like literally at that. So we had a lot of sellers up there. So that's pretty much. Now, kind of what I was saying yesterday, 897, I would like right here, the 8906 or 897.06 would have been my line in the sand. And I mean, we crashed below it, but then we basically closed at or a little bit below it on Monday and then took off from there. Again, put everything in perspective. We really didn't drop very far. The December 3rd low was what? 87 or 887. This low was 884, and on an $800 stock, $900 stock, $2 or $3 is 0.21%, right? So it's not like that's huge. It did make a new low, which is a little disappointing, a little scary. That's more or less what I'm saying. Is the rest of the market is booming, and BlackRock, which is basically the entire market just in one stock, right? Because BlackRock and then Blackstone pretty much own the whole entire stock market. So it's a little concerning that the market's making new highs and BlackRock is not. FAS is the same thing I was talking with BlackRock. Now, what did we do Monday? We gapped all the way down. It was terrible. 112, reaching levels, basically reached our own line that we drew in the sand over here, but then by the end of it, we're at 128. So that's a pretty good, push higher. If we can maintain this 127.94, then I would be a buyer. Watch out for 134. That would be next target, right? But then real next target is the filling of the gap, which is all the way back up to 141. Goldman Sachs is everybody loves a short Goldman. I love Goldman. I've been a fan of Goldman for quite some time, but we are in a downward trend. Now, in order for us to buck that trend, we really need to take out the 401. We take out the 401, then I am more poised for us to try to at least take this 418. If not, try to take this upward 426. Do I see us moving, what, 15, 30, 45 points, 40 points in 1 week? No, not at all. What I do see, if the bulls start to try to make a push, we do break this, right? The 401, right? Because breaking the 401, it will just break the hearts and minds of all the shorts, all the bears, and then will give us the ability to push higher up to 418. Mr. Price. Mr. Price was looking amazing all year round. Let's look where we came from. 142 to 224. So, I would say it's done pretty amazing. Now we are basically hovering around. Let me get rid of some of this. So if you look where we are hovering around that 100% mark, which would be pretty bullish for me, because we broke below, but we're still we're holding it pretty tough. If you look where we came from, we almost doubled in the year. So like, I'm good. Anything above 191, I would be a buyer. Blackstone, our other basically ruler of the market. If you look where we started, it's 61 all the way up to 149, right? 135 right now. So we're still at a 100% gain from last year. Long term, they own everything or they manage everything. So don't cry, they'll be fine. As long as, just like BlackRock and KKR, there's nothing wrong with this. They just had a nasty, nasty flush. But when you look at it from, well, they started at 67 and, they basically just went to 120. They still kind of, held their 100% in 1 year. So you can't really get too frustrated. And we're above the 100%. Next target would be the 127 to the 161 to our actual target of 156.